social work term that it's kind of like a love or hate for me, but people always say you have to meet people where they are. Because if they don't want to change or if they don't want to learn or grow, that's perfectly fine and it's up to them, right? You can't want something more than that person.
You ever find yourself in that position?
Oh yeah.
Where you're like, no, I'm not giving up on this person.
Yeah.
Not that you need to give up on them, but you see that no matter how much effort you put into that person, they're just going to be who they are.
Sure. People and efforts and like movements in general. Or, before we were talking about the community cleanup, and we talk about it that, the next morning there's already trash on the floor and there's syringes on the floor, and people don't see littering as, this huge infraction, but you still do, right? You still model the behavior for positive change.
What are some of the resources that help you get where you are? Are you where you want to be completely right now, or
professionally?
Yeah, professionally.
I'm very happy with what I'm currently doing. Of course, I have dreams and ambitions to do other things that
what's the big dream?
Exploring. I think that I want to have a child care like life skills center, and or community center, to be able to offer supports on a regular basis.
Like where people will come in and learn about taking care of their kid, or
Sure. So different things. So it could be life skills groups where you learn about money management, you learn about anger management, you learn about budgeting.
All the stuff that we should have learned in school and we don't.
You learn about public speaking. You learn about even protective factors and workshops to strengthen caregivers' capacities. I mean, a lot of it right now, I'm exposed to it for work, and the current programs that we offer. But it would be great to be able to give more, and for it to not to be as subscriptive, right, or prescriptive. For it to be a little bit more organic and free.
Right. Mm-hmm. Instead of being told what you have to do, you can actually come in and kind of fall into this education system. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things is that some of the problems that you kind of deal with now, or that you see that are lacking or in certain programs?
I think it's about trust too, and consistency. I think there's a lot of great programs and efforts going on, and it's just to get people to buy into it. It's hard for people to trust that something is going to be long lasting or always there when you need it. So I think that eventually it would be great to do exactly what I say I'm going to do, or the program to do exactly what it says it's going to do every single time.
And with being in an organization that's so big, do you see some of those things lacking, like that, some areas of care? Because a lot of people's concern is when they deal with a big organization, it's no longer really family oriented, or it's not, you don't feel that compassion. It's just so big that it just kind of gets lost in the day-to-day thing, and it becomes like, the bottom dollar becomes the thing. Is that, you ever feel that way? Not to just talk badly on your organization.
I think that why a lot of people why I stay at Turning Points is that they're dedicated, and we're not perfect all the time, but we're very intentional about holding groups and reevaluating and changing and modifying to support. I think that we are very family oriented. We invest in each other, we invest in our community, we invest in the services that we're providing, and I think that helps me want to continue doing this work.
And what are some of the resources that got you to where you are today? Like, you graduated, you got your master's. Were you already working in the field or working for Turning Points? Like, what organizations were you looking at, and then you ended up coming to Turning Points, or how'd you get here?
So I actually I was pregnant with my first son during my master's program. I basically graduated, and 2 weeks later I had him, and I didn't have a job, and I moved from from New Jersey. I moved from Central Jersey to South Jersey and was a new mom, and I didn't have a job, and I was fresh out of school, and I just started applying and started advocating for myself. And I went on a couple of interviews and had the opportunity to interview with Turning Points, and it's kind of stuck. It worked.
And that was 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
So that was your first, and like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, this
is my first serious job in the field.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you had so you were pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
How does being a mom and working with,
mm-hmm.
Turning Points for kids and
mm-hmm.
all that affect your relationship with your kids? Or how are you instilling some of those principles that when you were little, you knew you wanted to be a social worker
mm-hmm.
into your kids, if you're doing that at all?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm a mother of 6. I have 5 living children. And it's natural. We make sure that we volunteer and we participate in food drives and cleanups all the time. It's something that is not they do, or, people just do this for work. I instill it in my children that it's very important to be invested in other people in your community and to be an example.
And you said you had 5 kids?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What are the ages, if you don't mind me asking?
10, 9, 6, 2, and 6 months.
So they're all congratulations on the
you.
newborn.
Thank you.
So they're all very close in age,
mm-hmm.
and that sounds like a lot. Like a lot of people,
we have a lot going on, but it's blissful chaos,
What's for somebody who would want to come into this
mm-hmm.
field of work,
mm-hmm.
what's some advice that you would give them that they probably wouldn't find anywhere else?
Don't lose hope, to consistently try, and just because you tried it once and it didn't go the way you wanted to go doesn't mean to give up. To leave room for creativity, to be patient with yourself and other people that you work with, and to use your networks and resources to ask people for help.
What are some of the myth, like when you were first coming into this field
mm-hmm.
of work, what are some myths that you were told, or some, not myths, but misconceptions that people, a lot of people hear that you're going to do a certain job,
mm-hmm.
and, you always hear, I hear that this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
What are some common things that you hear, if at all you've heard?
Sure. I mean, I think social workers are associated with taking children away,
I was going to say,
babies,
you see that on movies all the time.
Yeah, I think that there are situations where children need to be removed from their homes because of some safety issues. But there's also the opportunities or the stories that you don't hear about social workers working with the families to remove those safety threats and the risks, to help families get resources or education for certain programs to help support whatever challenges they're going through. So I think that social workers sometimes get a bad rap for taking children away, and being like this negative person in a family's life. But social workers do a variety of amazing things, like community engagement, like working in nursing homes, like help. It's not just a one avenue career.
Yeah, there's a lot of that black and white thought.
Correct.
It's
mm-hmm.
like, oh, this kid is in a bad area. Like, you always hear people, I'm gonna call, what is it, Child Protective Services,
right.
and immediately when they get involved, the kid's gonna be removed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but that's not always
the case. No, I mean, there's an investigation that occurs, and then there's different levels, right? So you see how high the threat is, but a lot of the issues too are systemic. I mean, how can you punish somebody for poverty or lack of resources or lack of job training or lack of jobs or lack of housing? I think
I seen a very simple meme, like it was a simple-minded meme, and it said, so you're gonna take this kid away from this parent because they can't afford to take care of the kid, and then put them in a home and give that mom who
the money
put
for it, right?
The money. Yeah.
Instead of doing it the other way around. I mean, there's a lot that I don't agree with systemically, but I feel like majority of social workers, their intention is good and they do deliver good services.
As a generality, just a general example, you growing up, well, I don't know about you, me growing up, you always we would get reprimanded by getting whooped or getting spanked for doing something stupid. Sure. And a lot of people today, my age, consider that a good discipline. Like, if that didn't happen to me, I'd probably be a wild child or something like that. But you see in just the social climate, a lot of things getting softened up. Not that it's a bad thing at all. I'm not saying that. Sure. But has some of the cases changed over the years as far as what counts as abuse, or when those investigations come, have those parameters changed on what qualifies as this kid is in a dangerous situation, we need to get him out of here, or whatever the case is?
I think there is specifics. So if something happens, then this means this or this means that. So my expertise has not really been direct case management lately, so I can't speak to what the particulars are. But you see the shift, and a lot of it can be cultural too. A lot of cultures discipline differently. A lot of families, because it's generational too, right? They've experienced something from their parents and their grandparents, so they do differently. A lot of services that social workers also provide are prevention services, right? So you want to say, maybe discipline this way and do this to avoid this. So there's that education that comes out too from social workers.
How do you balance that lifestyle where you have 5 kids and then you come here and work and deal with, I'm sure some traumatic experiences with some other kids. How do you balance that? Some people can't even balance having 2 kids.
Right. No, it's a lot. I'm not an expert at all about being a parent. I think it's just you have to be patient and take it day to day, and be open-minded and not judge, right? Because everybody is so quick to say, "Oh, that wouldn't happen to me," or "I wouldn't do that."
That's the golden line right there.
We're all one experience away from being like the person next to you, or being like the people that we work with. So I think sometimes I just have to be patient with myself, and if I don't know, ask for help and rely on others. Hearing experiences helps support that you're not crazy, right? And you're not the only one going through it. But just to kind of take it one day at a time, and remember that not every child is the same, and to have a little bit of grace, moving forward.
Have you ever worked with a kid whose story was so not terrible, but like you could tell that was just a really traumatic experience, and kind of reflected that back on your kids? And does that change, like when you go home and you see your kids after working with just a terrible case or something like that?
It's very traumatic. It's also very hard to leave work at work, right? It blends. When you're invested and personally invested, you take things home with you. You remember, you replay your day. I think that there's been plenty of cases that maybe if I haven't worked with them, directly, hearing it from my coworkers, it leaves a lasting impression on you. And then here's my positive spin on it. It just tells you, it reminds you to do better, right? To not take advantage of what you have, to learn more, right? Because education, just, you can't ever know enough. And just to be appreciative of what you have. So I don't take for granted being able to experience and parent my kids every single night. So, yeah.
And you've been like we've said before, in the field for 10 years. Have you had such an impact on a kid where you still see them today? So
The direct service work, I have stopped doing that for a couple of years now, but there's been plenty of